On the global front this week, UN's top court termed Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories against international law in a landmark opinion. The International Court of Justice said Israel should stop settlement activity in the occupied West Bank, East Jerusalem, and end its illegal occupation of those areas and the Gaza Strip as soon as possible. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, however, rejected it, called it a decision of lies. Let's discuss how significant is this ruling coming from ICJ. For this, we have Dr. Adil Najam with us, an expert on international affairs. Thank you so much, Dr. Najam, for joining us. How significant is this ruling coming from ICJ?
Zunaira, I think it is as significant as any ruling from ICJ can be. And what that means is that it doesn't have any judicial standing. It is not implementable in the sense that national courts are. It is an advisory opinion. And therefore, it has advisory value rather than judicial value in that sense. However, it also has a lot of moral value. As a political statement, not as a political statement, but a statement in the arena of politics, it is very important. As a expression of international legal opinion, it is very important. As a statement of interorganizational, intergovernmental, global sense of values, it is very important. And that is where its importance lies, rather than in a judicial sense as we are used to in national courts, for example.
Right. But even if it has a moral value or a political weightage, let's say, it took 57 years for ICJ or UN's top court to come up with a decision on the legality of whatever Israel is doing in Palestine. How do you look at that?
I think that's a little cynical. I think the International Court of Justice and the UN in general has been amongst the very few, possibly only, institutions and actors in international affairs that stands with integrity, especially during the last 10 months. Right? So you can look at it as a 57-year question. You can look at it as a 10-month question. You can look at it as, is anyone in the international arena speaking with authority and with conviction on this? And the ICJ, unfortunately, is amongst the very few. Right? The Security Council is not. We are very fond of bad-mouthing the United Nations. I think that is a very terrible thing we do, and it's a dishonest thing we do. I think the United Nations has emerged once again as one of the few good actors. The failure is not on behalf of these institutions. The failure is on behalf of the countries that are represented in the institution.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So
but does that mean that there is an order which is getting out of hands from the current international establishment, let's put it this way,
Sure.
and somehow UN is a hostage to those P5, let's put it this way?
It has always been. But to expect otherwise, is, I think, a little naive, right? International affairs is an arena of power. You have created an institution, the Security Council, for example, where 5 members are more equal than the rest of all of the members. So why should you expect otherwise? I think we do a disservice to ourselves, kind of winking and knowing what we are saying, but the UN becomes an easy scapegoat. But coming back to the ICJ, I think the value of the moral position that they have taken, not just with this decision, but with previous decisions, you are already seeing it changing, putting pressure, particularly on Western powers, particularly on the citizenry in Western powers, right? And you can see that changing slightly. It is changing too slightly. It is changing very slowly. It is changing at great cost to the people who are doing the dying in Gaza. But it is changing. You saw that, for example, even in the recent French elections. The world, and particularly Western countries, are extremely divided on this issue. It does not come across to them as straightforward an issue as it might to you or me. But that is the world we are living in. In that world, amongst the few who are pushing is the ICJ.
Okay, you are absolutely right when it comes to the situation that has always been like this. But somehow our generation has gotten so used to this, these terms of peacekeeping coming from UN, coming from US, the American dream, and all the peace mantra that we hear from the Western world, that everyone is astonished at the kind of humanitarian crisis that are harboring right under our noses.
Yeah,
What do
but
we
that's
expect
because
from the international order at this point, when the babies are dying, when the lactating mothers have nowhere to go to? Like, we see the footages which we shouldn't have to see actually. Where do we go for the justice for those people?
I think you're right, but I cannot and will not try to defend the system as it is, but we need to at least understand the system so that we can change it. Our generation is also lazy, right? Our generation is intent on doing a little condemnation once every month, right? In our own country, Pakistan, in any country, who's talking about Gaza? We are all interested in our own little circus. And the media is, the politicians are, the
True, true.
citizenry is. So this is not about blame. This is not about blame. But what I'm saying is, just as we should not be blaming our generation, we cannot simply blame these institutions. I am a fan. I support the ICJ. I support the efforts of the Security Council of the Secretary General, because they're at least trying. Right?
So,
And I do think that in the noise, one of the things that historians will write about is that the noise that has been created by this facade of having a lot of information, a lot of television channels and all that, in that we drown the news, we drown the most important things, because there's always something else to talk about.
right, right. With the current escalation with Hezbollah, I only see this war even escalating further. Do you see anytime soon any ceasefire happening?
I unfortunately I don't. Unfortunately, I don't, because A, the terms keep changing. B, I think the tragedy, the great catastrophe that historians will think about when they think about our generation, and they will blame us, not just countries. Let it be clear, they'll blame Adil Najam, they'll blame Zunaira, as they should. But future generations will look back at this and say, how could these people allow such atrocities to continue, constantly
Sure.
distracted by their own little circuses, and let it continue? And when that happens, that blame will be, I think, correct and will be widespread, not just on a few
It would be
countries.
a collective failure of this
It is a collective
generation.
failure. It is a
Yeah.
collective failure. And the problem, I think, to your question, not to ignore it, to your question, I think the great catastrophe is that what we've seen is that Israel is totally deaf
Yeah. Yeah.
to these international pressures.
Yeah. That's
It
true.
did not even take these ICJ hearings as seriously as it had, for example, the previous ones. And
Like,
that is
whatever happened to those arrest warrants of Netanyahu? He is still going and talking to Congress and doing everything on earth.
and that happened. This is a lesson for nations as well as individuals, but as for the global system, that happened partly because they learn from what they see, and what they see is that the world keeps sort of ignoring not just
Right.
what is happening, but what is being said by institutions like ICJ. So they saw the decisions earlier, they saw the lukewarm reaction of the world, they saw how short that was on the news cycle or on people's imagination or even on people's Twitter feed. And they learned from it that we can get away from it. Well,
Right.
we can get away with it. I think that's the tragedy.
That's the real tragedy. Thank you so much, Dr. Adil Najam, for joining us. That is so hard to discuss every time, but we must, because we have to keep it alive till there is peace in Palestine. And let's have a look at US elections now. A very happening week, as Donald Trump, after surviving an assassination attempt, spoke for more than 90 minutes at the Republican convention in Wisconsin, longest speech in the modern history. seemed like a crowning moment for him as a stark contrast to the situation faced by the Democratic Party. Let's discuss how things are looking for both Republicans and Democrats in US. We have Mr. Sajid Tarar with us, who is a Republican leader, and from Democratic Party we have been joined by Mr. Adnan Bukhari. Thank you, both of you, for joining us. Mr. Tarar, usually the conventions and speeches, they are all about opponents and their policies and election, of course. But while Donald Trump did criticize Biden administration's policies, he looked more about his new way of looking at the things after the assassination attempt. Is this observation correct? Because media is also talking about the old and the new Trump. And also, at the convention, most of the European delegates were present. The embassies were actively engaging over there. The Indian embassy actively engaged with the convention. Did anyone from Pakistani embassy show up?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. But but your assessment, your observation is absolutely right. Donald Trump has, looked different. It's Donald Trump 2.0. He has, he is very mature comparatively the last term elections and speeches. And the reason he did not mention Biden is this is another political corruption. This is a tragedy of American people, matter of fact. And he has spoken about the issue. He still doesn't know who the opponent is. According to the American media, Biden's supposed to leave the race today. I mean, say he has COVID, he has dementia, and plus still today's even the headline on CNN that is he's very close to walk out. So this is a tragedy. Donald Trump, this is a tragedy of American people. This is a tragedy with the Republican Party. They're still not sure who will be the opponent, who will be the running against Donald Trump. So Donald Trump did not feel like it wasting time and talking about Biden. Plus, at the same time, everybody in this country knows that Biden is not calling the shots. It's Obama running the government. Mm-hmm. This is another tragedy. This is another corruption in this country that Obama has been running America for the last 12 years. The entire establishment, Pentagon, State Department, everything is run by Obama. Even then the cabinet has been handpicked by him. This convention, especially after the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, Republican Party seems united. Nikki Haley came up there, Ramaswamy there.
Kissing the ring.
Yes. So the thing is Republican Party is getting united, getting agreed. It was all pumped up. Even then, the RNC in Milwaukee, all of us, I was there, we were under threat. Because reason, Milwaukee's mayor is Democrat, and he had given a permit to the Democrat Party to come up there and have the gathering and a lot of other things. And whenever the Democrat Party get together, Black Lives Matter and Antifa always hijack their gatherings, and they have no custom to have a peaceful gathering. So we were under threat. And matter of fact, not only this, one person has been killed by the cops who was attacking a Republican guy. Plus, at the same time, one guy was trying to get in with AK-47. Mm-hmm. So because real city is run by the Democrat mayor. Now, the state of the international leaders, three things I wanted to mention up there. More than 20 representatives of the European countries, they were there. Reason because they think that Donald Trump
is going to win.
Yes, and today I wanted to share with you the President Zelensky from Ukraine. He has spoken with Donald Trump at the same time. Mm-hmm. All the leaders were there. I saw the Indian ambassador with her entire delegation from her embassy. But sadly, I never come across a single other Pakistani beside myself. And I have not seen a single person representing from Pakistan embassy at the same time. And that is a very sad situation.
That's disappointing, really disappointing. Yeah. Mr. Adnan Bukhari, if I say that the unifying figure that we saw at the convention in the Trump, that is all because of the two wars at the hands of Democrats, Ukraine war and Gaza war. And they are complacent specifically to the genocide happening in Gaza. Do you think the American election, which is usually about abortion, about immigrants and all that, has taken a turn because of the wrong policies of the Biden administration?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your program, and kudos to you for holding this very important dialogue. The reason we hold these dialogues is because we want the truth to come out. And my commitment to you is that everything that I'm going to say is going to be fact-based and is going to be truthful. I want to go back to your earlier question, which is what did we see in President Trump? So we saw first 15 minutes of President Trump, who was reading from a teleprompter as a new Trump. Trump 2.0 is what people are calling him. But then if you continue watching the rest of the 90 minutes, then you will get to see that it was also the old President Trump, and none of those policies are going to be better than what we saw in the previous term. Coming to your question of who would be the unifying president, the president in the next 4 years is going to have to deal with a lot of issues, not just domestic issues, but global issues. One key issue that nobody's talking about is if you refer to the World Economic Forum's Global Risks Report, in the next 10 years, the entire world is going to be facing certain challenges that we need to make sure that the next American president is going to do something about. I'll just name two of those challenges. One is disinformation and misinformation that we can see starting several years ago and just getting worse and worse, and getting worse with AI advancements that we are seeing all around us. So who is going to be the party, who is going to be the president who can deal with misinformation and disinformation in the best way? The other big issue that we have, and it's a little bit of a longer term issue, is climate change. Climate change is going to cause massive climate displacements, and which party and which president is going to be best suited to unify us, because we need a global framework to help make sure that we can all come together. We are now facing a multipolar world. It is no longer 2 superpowers or 3 superpowers, it's many superpowers who have to be at the table.
Mr. Adnan Bukhari, let me interject here. Let me interject here. Are you saying that while the babies are dying, while there is an active genocide happening, the priorities for the upcoming US president should be climate change and disinformation?
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that if you go to the root causes of conflict, if you try to understand the humanitarian crisis that is right now, that is happening right now, that is
because
really
of the ironclad support of the Biden administration to Israel and Ukraine.
Go backwards. No, go backwards, right? So try to understand that. Go backwards and say, where is this conflict arising from? Please understand the root causes of conflicts. What we are seeing is on the surface.
ICJ made it very clear. They said that 57 years, it took 57 years for ICJ to call it illegal, whatever Israel is doing. So if we go backwards, it still remains what I'm saying.
Yes, so if we are talking about conflict across the world, if you're talking about UN resolutions or ICJ's non-binding
and US vetoing ceasefire every time.
If you're talking about all of those things, then please understand that I'm a son of a Kashmiri refugee who had to leave Kashmir at the age of 14.
Then you should be rallying around this fact more and more, because I'm really surprised that your own democracy is becoming a conservative populism, and the world is more divided than ever only because of the vetoes in the last 7 months practiced by the US in UN. And so I'm really surprised that the priorities are climate change and disinformation.
No, so the priorities are not only climate change and only misinformation and disinformation. Don't get that wrong. There is a huge crisis that is going on right now in the Middle East, and that has to be addressed. And nobody should ever be confused with that. If anybody is aligned with Democrats, they're all in favor of every single decision that the Democratic leadership makes. Same goes for Republicans. Not every decision that is made is acceptable to everyone who's in the Republican Party or calls themselves Republicans. So let's not confuse any of those things. We can talk about Gaza, we can go into the details of it, but we have to understand that symbolic things are not, and this is United States responsibility, this is responsibility of the entire globe, particularly the leadership around the globe, to make sure that we move away
I'm
from
sorry, Mr.
symbolic.
Adnan. This is not symbolic. This is a real genocide. This is a real Holocaust happening right in front of us.
Absolutely,
And I'm not buying your argument here that this is symbolic. I would go to Mr. Tarar. Mr. Tarar, Mr. Trump also keeps on saying that he would have done things differently when it comes to Ukraine and Gaza. But he never actually talks about his policy, that how would he do that? How do you comment on that?
First of all, with a lot of respect with Mr. Bukhari, I just wanted to address I wanted to rebut on it. This is the main issue. The Democrat Party do not understand the problem. The money has sent to Iran from Barack Obama has created all of it. And plus every single bomb is doing the genocide in Gaza has a name of Obama and Biden on it. And plus, again, I have to mention, Bernie Sanders has said on the floor that how weak American foreign policy has to be, that all the money to Gaza and all the bombs going there they are going from US, but Israel is not listening. Matter of fact, another thing is this, my biggest fear is this. Right now, the Bibi Netanyahu is in Washington, D.C., and he's supposed to meet the American president this week.
Yeah.
And American president has gone into his basement, matter of fact, in Delaware. So the country is on a free fall. Obama, I'm not sure what the Obama is going to do it right now, but America is futureless, leaderless, and hopeless at the moment. And not only this, whatever is going on right now in the world, entire world, it has the address of Barack Hussein Obama and Joe Biden, matter of fact. And that's what Donald Trump has said. First of all, Donald Trump is not predictable. Donald Trump is a leader. He's not in this business to make money, the politics. He already has made a lot of money in his life. And that's what the politics is about. And here, especially coming to the Gaza, I have been traveling with the president in many states here in the country, and I was trying to understand what his mindset is. He's not in a favor of having a long conflict in Israel. He has said that he wants Israel to finish their operations and go back. So not only this, matter of fact, in the US right now, if you personally ask me, the Democrat Party is nothing but a chaos, and they have created a political chaos. Right now, I mean, imagine about it. We are a few months away from the elections, and we are not sure either it will be a Michelle Obama, either it will be a Newsom, or either it will be a Kamala Harris. This is not good for the voters. This is not good for the
This is indeed the most confused elections ever that we have witnessed in the modern history. And I'm really surprised that why the media is not talking about the kind of failure, the political failure that the country is facing internally when it comes to their own democracy. And this wraps up this week's Epicenter.